I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I'm fired up for today's episode of Carving Up Live. An absolutely jam-packed show from start to finish. Gonna start with Nikola Jokic of the Denver Nuggets going down 3-1, and the end of the game, an embarrassing look for Jokic, why he could very well lose his title best player in the world if he hasn't already. Get to that. Also touch on the Oklahoma City Thunder, the weird avenue that they have taken to being the most hated team in the NBA. I didn't see it coming, but that's where we're at. Getting it to my Red Sox firing Alex Cora, which as far as I'm concerned is like putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. Red Sox have deeper problems than Alex Cora and the coaching staff. Get to that. Also touch on LeBron's amazing Game 3 and disastrous Game 4 if there's any chance whatsoever the Rockets can come back and win that series. Wemby and Fox had a big-time performance in Game 4 against the Portland Trailblazers. NFL draft recap. Diego Pavia is going to try out for the Baltimore Ravens. All kinds of stuff on Carving Up Live. So from start to finish, again, absolutely loaded. So let's drop the beat, baby. Here we go. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving Up Live right here on YouTube, as well as on Twitch, X, and on Facebook. I am Bryson Carver. Great to be with you on a Monday. I gotta say, before we even get into any of our topics today, I hope your weekend, and mine was, as far as the NBA was concerned, okay. Again, my Warriors aren't in it, so who cares about who's winning these playoff games, right? I hope your weekend was a lot better than Ben Stiller's. I don't know if you saw what was going on in his Twitter feed. My gosh, boy, I feel bad for the guy. Man, just trying to tweet about basketball, and they're out here blaming him for government conspiracies. Like, what the heck just happened? So shout out to Ben Stiller and shout out to the New York Knicks, who oddly didn't make the show tonight because we're so packed, as you can hear, or as you just heard, rather, and are open. Let's get right into business. But first, well, didn't see this coming. The Denver Nuggets are down 3-1 now, thanks to some really unfortunate injuries for the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're not dead, and we'll get to the Minnesota Timberwolves, later on today's show. Here's what I'll say about Nikola Jokic, because he has been in every way, shape, or form truly brutal. Because if you let's just look at Game 4 and what he did. If we have those numbers against the Minnesota Timberwolves, put those up. So you're like, oh, okay, assists shy of a triple-double, 24, 15, and 9, 3 steals. But 8 of 22 from the field, 0 for 3 from three-point range, 8 of 8 from the free throw line. And a large reason that he's struggling in this series the way that he has is for reasons I don't think even the staunchest of fans of this particular individual could have seen coming. Rudy bleeping Gobert, who I must say, if Minnesota's able to finish this off, and it's going to be tough without Ant Edwards and Donte DiVincenzo, we'll get to them later. If they pull this off, we owe Rudy Gobert a big ol' apology. Not for him saying, hey, I should have been DPOY. Like, no, Wemby's a better defender than you, buddy. But in a sense of, kind of expose him in the playoffs, which to a degree, still kind of true. You get him on the perimeter, not very good. But in the paint, against a guy who may be the best player in the world, arguably, although he is losing his grasp on that title. This is what Rudy Gobert's done against Nikola Jokic. So Jokic against other defenders, still not great, 16 to 35, which is 45%. But against Rudy Gobert, Nikola Jokic is shooting 34% from the field. 18 of 22 to be exact. Rudy Gobert, you see him over Jokic's shoulder, just absolutely shutting him down every way, shape, or form. Fourth quarter, big possessions, all of it. And it's not like Rudy's doing much of the offensive end. He's not. He's getting a couple of putback dunks. That's about all he's going to give you on that end. Defensively, he's been the MVP of the series. And it goes to a bigger conversation with Jokic. And I was thinking about this after Denver went down 3-1 the other night. And by the way, Game 5's tonight. So, I would be just flabbergasted. Denver at home, season on the line, down 3-1 to a beat-up Timberwolves team. I'd be stunned if Denver loses tonight. It would be a disaster. But to that point, unless they pull off a 3-1 comeback, which is possible, again, with the injuries to Minnesota, it's possible. Denver would have 2 of the next 3 games at home. It can happen. We talk about the title of best player in the world, which I think is, I wouldn't say it's been consensus necessarily, but I'd say the last 3 years, really going back to when the Nuggets won the title back in June of 2023. From that point on to now, more basketball fans, media, and frankly players than not would say, yeah, he's the best player. Respect to all the other guys, that's the best player. And throughout modern NBA history, how about this? Let's just look in my generation of basketball fans, what we grew up watching. Guys that had the best player in the world title. Early 21st century, I think it was Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal led the Lakers, along with Kobe, obviously, who we'll get to, because Kobe at one point held the best player in the world title, in my estimation. Shaquille O'Neal, from 2000 2002, the most dominant player in the history of the NBA in that run. 3 straight finals MVPs, three-peat, all of it. What was his low point? 04 finals. He wasn't good. Really, none of the Lakers were good, but he was not good against a Detroit Pistons team who obviously had all-time great defenders, but Shaq's got to be better than he was. Low point for Shaq. Kobe Bryant, I think from about the time Shaq left him to when he won back-to-back titles in his 5th ring back in 2010, respect to Tim Duncan, it was a back and forth. I think Kobe was the best player in the world. What was the low point of his career? The series against the Phoenix Suns. Remember when he doesn't shoot the basketball in the second half, kind of quit on his team. Actually, he did quit on his team. Low point for Kobe Bryant. You look beyond that, and Kobe's kind of the exception to this rule, which we'll get to. From there on, I think it was LeBron James. So from like 2010-ish, certainly 2012, all the way to about 2020, Bron was the best player in the world. What's Bron's low point of his career? 2011 finals against Dallas. He was awful. Remember the 8-point game in whatever it was, game 4, game 5? He was terrible. I think after Bron, Steph Curry held that title until Jokic. For a brief period, you can argue Steph was the best player in the world in 2015-16. He's certainly from about 2021 to 23, Steph was the best player. What's the low point of Steph's career? 2016 finals. In all of the examples I just gave you, except for Kobe, all of them happened in the championship. Shaq, 04 finals. LeBron, 2011 finals. Steph Curry, 2016 finals. Now, make no mistake, those are the black marks of those guys' career. People who hate Bron still won't let him forget about 2011. People who hate Steph will never let him forget about 2016, blowing a 3-1 lead to the Cavs. But those did happen in the championship. Those did happen in the final round. Kobe's, again, how do we look at, God rest his soul, we all love Kobe. What would his legacy be if the Lakers don't get Pau Gasol and don't surround him with the necessary ancillary pieces to help him get to 3 straight finals and win the last 2 of those in 2009 and 2010? Who knows? Since Jokic has been crowned, I think correctly, the best player in the world 3 years ago, what has he done since then? A second-round exit to this Timberwolves team back in 2024 when the Nuggets are defending their title. Second round 2024, it's Nuggets and Timberwolves. They're up 3-2, get the doors blown off them in Game 6, and in Game 7, blow a double-digit lead. And Rudy Gobert's out here hitting fall-away jumpers. Rudy Gobert almost hit a 3 the other night. I thought Breen said it on the broadcast. The building was about to explode if he hit that. The next year, I'm not crushing him for losing to Oklahoma City. I'm not. Oklahoma City went on with the championship. I'm not crushing for losing that series in 7. But shot under 40% over a 3-game stretch in that series, which he's doing right now. Over the last 3 games, he shot 39%. Against Rudy Gobert in the series in totality, he shot 34% from the field. When you have a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who I'm going to get to later, when you have a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander who's about to be the back-to-back MVP, could lead the Thunder to a 2nd straight title, it's like, why aren't I the best player in the world? And if you have a Victor Wembanyama, who's by a country mile the best defensive player in the league, an unstoppable force in the offensive end of the floor, and if he leads the Spurs to a title at age 22, he's like, why aren't I the best player in the world? If Luka makes a miraculous return and shocks the whole world by leading the Lakers, why aren't I the best player in the world? There's plenty of guys who have had more recent playoff success than Jokic and more recent MVPs, if we're talking about Shai, that could say, what the heck? Why am I not the best player? And this also goes to, there's a way at holding that title. But we talk about this all the time, more so in the NFL than with the NBA. But in the NFL, we talk about the maturity and the almost statesmanship that quarterbacks got to bring to the table. So I'm going to get to Diego Pavia later on the show. As limited as his measurables are, his intangibles are atrocious. That's why guys like Tom Brady was able to get to where he was. Now, Tom Brady was, 6'4", but not a crazy arm when he came to the league. It got better. Tom blew you away with his intangibles. There's a weight that comes with being recognized as the best player in the world. Not to win every championship, not to win every MVP, but to conduct yourself like a professional. Steph, the one time I can think of when I was like, oh man, Steph, yeah, that was, come on, man. Remember Game 6 against the Cavs? the Warriors are in the midst of blowing a 3-1 lead, and he gets fouled out. Shouldn't have fouled out of that game, by the way. And then he throws his mouthpiece to the fans like, oh, you can't. Come on, Steph. Don't do that. Other than that, Steph, by and large, keeps his cool. It's one moment where he lost it. That's it. Bron, never really done it. Never, lost his cool, at least publicly. We remember he punched a wall after the Cavs lost that game 1 in 2018, the Warriors, not publicly. For Jokic at the end of that game to continue what is a string of, kind of dirty, for those who didn't see it, Timberwolves are up 14 in the finals. The game's been over. Mike Conley throws an advanced pass to Jaden McDaniels, who's been talking a lot of trash about Jokic and the Nuggets in this series. Jaden goes down the other end, lays up with 2 seconds left. Shot clock was off, by the way. And Jokic sprints, and we don't ever see Jokic sprints down the other end of the floor, confronts him, and starts a big scuffle. Thank God. Kudos to the NBA. A, thank God it didn't get worse than it was. B, the NBA made the right call. We're going to fine Jokic, and I think it was Julius Randle, and no one's getting suspended, nor should they, by the way. And it's wait a minute. But before I even continue, let's play what Jokic had to say about that particular incident. Here you go.
What happened late? I guess, why were you so upset with the McDaniels layup?
Because he scored and everybody stopped playing.
Okay, this goes back to the old unwritten rules thing that we hear more in baseball than we do basketball and football. But there's a way to play the game. Yes, there is a way to play the game. 100% effort until the game's over. Well, game wasn't over. If you're mad at Jaden McDaniels hitting a layup, okay, then maybe play a little bit better defense over the course of the first 48 or 47 minutes and 58 seconds. Just an idea. When you're showing more effort at running down a guy when the game's decided for shooting an open layup than you are in competing on the defensive end, that's a problem. And by the way, when you're bad on the offensive end, and I mentioned that it continues a string of Jokic kind of losing it. There was a play, the Nuggets are about to get swept, 2021. This is after his first MVP, by the way. They're about to get swept by the Suns. Jokic missed a shot, and wax campaign of Phoenix on the head gets thrown out of the game. Bro, what were you doing? That could have hurt the guy. Seriously. There was a moment the following season, to me, one of the most dangerous acts I've ever seen in a basketball game. It's the Heat and the Nuggets. This is before they play in the finals a couple of years later. And Jokic and one of the Morris brothers are kind of get into it. Morris has his back turned to Jokic. Jokic, being the large man he is, runs him down, shoves him full force in the back, gives the man whiplash. He misses the season. Now, how Jokic didn't get a serious punishment for that, I have no idea. But we have a history of, he can he's a ticking time bomb as far as his emotions are concerned. And not in a good way. Where if things aren't going his way, if things are if adversity hits, he kind of loses it. And so, but none of this is saying Denver's done. None of it. Again, they're down 3-1, but they would, in theory, have 2 of the next 3 games at home, and B, Minnesota's going to be without their starting backcourt for the rest of the series. And unfortunately for DiVincenzo, far beyond that. But this is as bad of a look as I've ever seen for a best player in the world that I can remember. Again, I was really young. I was 3-4 years old when Kobe Bryant didn't shoot in the second half against Phoenix when, by the way, the Lakers blew a 3-1 lead to the Suns. It's I don't really remember that, but it was certainly still bad. Bron in 2011 against the Mavs was horrible, but at least it was in the finals. Steph in 2016 against the Cavs. At least it was in the finals. It's in the first round against a Timberwolves team that was without their best player, and their best player wasn't healthy to begin with. And the guys who talked all that trash about you are backing it up. And you want to get mad at one of those guys for shooting a layup? Unwritten rules. Okay, then maybe play some better defense. And it doesn't get to that point where you have to talk about unwritten rules. So this series has been a really bad look for Nikola Jokic. And as for the Timberwolves, I got to say, first of all, let's start with the positive. Ayo Dosunmu put up his numbers. My Lord. Off the bench, mind you, 43 points. 4 rebounds. I mean, this is as efficient as it gets. 13 of 17 from the field, 5 of 5 from three-point range, and then 12 of 12 from the free throw line. For those that are doing math, we talk about guys shooting 50, 40, 90, 50% for the field, 40% from 3, 90% for the free throw line. Those shooting splits come out to 76, 100, 100. Pretty good. So, and by the way, he was great in game 3 as well. I think he had like 26 in game 3. So this kid who the Timberwolves acquired from the Bulls seems to be really, really mature. Love the post-game interview with Lisa Salter. Seemed like a great kid and was the hero in that game. Hit every big shot, all the confidence in the world, the floaters, the three-point shots. He was excellent. And so if you're Minnesota, you're like, okay, if he doesn't have to drop 43 necessarily, but if he can get on one more heater, we should be able to get one more win in this series. The bad news is, and I mean this genuinely, I feel really bad, and I don't really have any allegiance to Minnesota or Minneapolis or the T-Wolves or any of it. I just, as a basketball fan, and as a basketball fan who saw his own team a year ago be a lower seed, but watching them, oh, they're better than their seeding. I watched my Warriors, ironically, against these Timberwolves. The Warriors were a 7 seed, finished the regular season hot, beat the 2 seed Rockets, and were kind of crushing Minnesota in game 1 on the road when Steph Curry hurts his hamstring and misses the rest of the series, and that's that. I genuinely feel sick for the Timberwolves and for their fans to be like, oh my gosh, we're up 2-1, chance to go up 3-1 in the series on Denver, the heavily favored Nuggets. Donte DiVincenzo blows his Achilles a minute into the game on a routine. He missed the shot, and he's going, and the Achilles just goes. And that's why it's not only is it the worst injury in sports, it's the most unpredictable. You have no idea when it's just going to snap on you out of nowhere. And then Anthony Edwards going to the basket, lands awkwardly, hyperextends his knee. Thankfully, there was no serious ligament damage, but he's out multiple weeks. And even if Minnesota survives this series, they have to play the Spurs. Like they're dead on arrival in round 2 if Anthony Edwards doesn't make a miraculous return. And that sucks. It just sucks. Because if Ant were healthy, then I'd say, ain't no way Denver's coming back from 3-1. And also, okay, I'd pick the Spurs, but Ant's kind of a giant killer. He's already beaten Jokic, and his team might beat Jokic again. He's beaten LeBron. He's beaten Luka. Like, he's beaten Kevin Durant. It's kind of what he does in the playoffs. It's kind of what the Timberwolves do. I was joking the other night. There's playoff Rondo, there's playoff Jimmy, and there's playoff T-Wolves. They just hit a different gear. Chris Finch is an excellent coach. They're a great defensive team. They're long. They can shoot. You see what Rudy's doing in the defensive end against arguably the best player in the world? And so you watch this. Again, I can't imagine how T-Wolves fans feel. But I'm watching this thinking, this reminds me a little bit of the Warriors, where, again, slightly different circumstances. The Steph injury happened at the beginning of the series. This one happened in the middle. But there's still an element of lower seed, but nobody wants to play them. I mean, San Antonio is not, I think at this point, again, if Ant were healthy, they'd be like, I'd rather Denver come back from 3-1 and be kind of gassed coming into this series, presumably against us, than Minnesota. Even if it were to get to game 7, they're like, hey, we just upset Denver, and hey, we've been to the last 2 Western Conference Finals. Nuggets can't say that. They can't. Not even OKC can say that. So Ayo Dosunmu credits him on an unbelievable performance. And Chris Finch doing the job he's done, Rudy Gobert doing the job that he's done on Jokic. But you're watching this, you're like, yeah, there's only so far they can go. And it has nothing to do with them. It just has everything to do with terrible injury luck, which sucks. It really, really does. So prayers for Donte DiVincenzo. Again, Achilles injuries sucks. Hopefully he's back. He's one of the more important glue guys, can shoot the 3, can, score off the dribble, can finish, decent defender. Like, the fact he's out for, I don't know how long, probably 12 months, maybe the entirety of next season, potentially, maybe makes a Jason Tatum recovery. And that would be awesome. And then for Ant, even if in the slim chance he does come back, and we've seen guys come back earlier than expected, see Joel Embiid with the Sixers. Was that a good thing for Philly? We can debate that. But Ant wasn't healthy to begin with. So when he comes back, if it's like a game 6 and they're down 3-2 to the Spurs, that's a lot to ask. And so I genuinely feel horrible for the T-Wolves, for the fans. It's like all this work we put in, all this effort. We're going to beat Denver. And even if we do beat Denver, we've got a 3-1 cushion. We should be able to do it. We can't beat the Spurs without Ant Edwards. We can't beat them. Unless, God forbid, biggest knock on wood ever, Wemby were to go down. We can't beat them. So it really sucks, and I hate it for the Timberwolves. I do want to shift, though, to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And it feels like every single conversation we have about OKC, whether it's about the Thunder or about Shea, you have to preface any criticism whatsoever with saying what is objectively true, by the way. Well-coached team, ridiculously deep team. Sam Presti, I think, is pretty much indisputably the best executive in all of basketball. And Shea is at worst the second best player on the planet. And if Jokic goes out in round one, he probably, for the time being, takes the title as best player in the world. And in game 3 against Phoenix, he was unbelievable. Show the numbers. Shea was awesome. 42, 4, and 8 on 15 of 18 shooting, 1 of 3 from 3, and 11 of 12 from the free throw line. Shea was unbelievable. And by the time this video, because we're doing this live at a little after 6 Eastern, the Thunder play tonight, I think 9:30 Eastern against the Suns, they're going to sweep Phoenix. Even if they don't, they'll beat them in game 5. So the Thunder are going to advance by the time that either they have advanced or they are going to advance by the time the full video of this comes out. But I think I speak for myself and for literally any single human being that enjoys basketball, that enjoys, again, basketball, in saying, I can't stand this team. I really can't. It has nothing to do with how good they are. They're an excellent team. Defending champions and the favorites to do it again. If they do it again, wouldn't shock me in the slightest. Not even a little bit. Can Shea have the claim for best player in the world? Well, I don't know. Back-to-back MVP, back-to-back champion, pretty good case. None of what I'm about to say takes away from any of that. They're an excellent team, which is probably what makes it all the more frustrating. See, if this were like an 8 seed that just clawed their way in the playoffs through the play-in and they're flopping and dirty, it's like, okay, they're annoying, but you don't have to worry about them after the 1 seed clobbers them. Well, in this case, it is the 1 seed. It is the team with the best record in basketball. So we're going to see them for much longer than the first round and all likelihood the second round. So we've talked, I'm not the first one to lament the fact that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is officiated differently than every other superstar in the NBA. Every single one. Even the ones that, quote unquote, get the calls. Jokic or Luke. This guy, and I remember Shai's defenders a year ago talked about how, hey, he doesn't lead the NBA in free throw attempts, to which I've always said that's not the point. Because it's like, oh, Kobe got to the line more than anybody. Jordan got to the line. It's how he gets to the line. It is through unnatural, unbasketball-like moves that you would not see by anybody else unless the intention is to get fouled. When Shai goes to the lane or when Shai goes up in the mid-range, he is not trying to make the shot at all times. Now, I understand there's been some, throughout NBA history, all of the great scorers, and Shai's one of them, there are little tricks to get to the line, like Kevin Durant, the old rip through, like, fine. That's a basketball move. Like if you're trying to get around a defender, the kind of rip through dribble. No, Shai, it's turning his body like sideways to the defender and throwing something at the rim, getting the call. Meanwhile, other guards like Steph Curry get hammered, literally have scratches on his shoulders. Nothing. Gets, 4 or 5 free throws attempts a game. And then, on the defensive end, Lou Dort. We've had multiple instances of this in the last couple of months. When he tripped Jokic, which could have seriously hurt Nikola, and then when he trips another member of the Phoenix Suns, and then you have, on the other end, SGA throwing his body into Booker, fouls on Booker. There is a different level of officiating with this team. And by the way, I am not going to engage in the, the games are rigged for OKC. The same logic for that would apply to the NFL when people were saying, oh, the games are rigged for the Chiefs. I'm like, really? You think the NFL wants their dynasty in Kansas City, Missouri? Nothing against Casey Mo. But you think they'd want it in Dallas or LA or Miami or New York? They don't want their dynasty, if it were their first choice, in Kansas City. So that whole argument falls on its face immediately. Same with OKC. But what makes it even worse is Shai, after having an objectively phenomenal game, hits a big shot late, thinks he was fouled. Okay, he has a right to think that. And then yells the fans, I don't need it, based on I don't need contact. And then when questioned after the game, says this.
Frustration with the way you've been defended this series, and where does that emotion come from?
Nothing at all. I just think they missed the call, but I scored anyway, so I was like, it's okay, don't worry about it. Yeah, nothing more than that.
Shai, you're the last guy that can complain about this. You're literally the last superstar on planet Earth that can complain about this. Well, I think there should have been a call. Well, if we want to play that game, whether there should or shouldn't have been a call, we can look at the film of the entire season and say, this mid-range jumper when you're, or the step back where you're falling backwards and throwing something in the ring, getting called, should that have been a foul? When you're throwing your body into guys, which the NBA supposedly outlawed about 4 or 5 years ago, should that have been a foul? And we're getting into, with the Lou Dort stuff, we're getting into some dangerous territory where, okay, round 2, barring the all-time collapse, and I don't see that happening, where you're going to be in a series with the Lakers. If we see a situation where Lou Dort tries to hurt LeBron, we assume Luka will be back. By then, tries to hurt Luka. And then if conference finals, now you're trying to hurt Wemby, it's like, okay, wait a second. The best player in this team, and maybe the best player in basketball, the back-to-back MVP, and he's going to be, and he should be, by the way, is getting away with, make any unnatural basketball move and there's a defender on you, shoot the ball, you're going to the free throw line. Meanwhile, their best defender, arguably, either him or Caruso, are out here mugging guys, tripping guys. Jokic, Booker's getting beat up out there. You could have LeBron or Luka get hurt, God forbid, or the same with Wemby in the conference finals. At what point is the league going to step in and say, okay, this is ridiculous? Because what also really grinds my gears about this team, and about Shai in particular, because I really like Shai. Shai, by all accounts, good dude. I love his temperament on the court. Cool, calm, collected, never too high, never too... Love it. Shai, people compare Shai to Harden. Harden, to a degree, and I talked about this last week, kind of needed it. Kind of needed a foul bait in order to be an efficient, not an efficient scorer, but a great scorer. Shai doesn't. Not to say Shai isn't allowed to put himself in a spot where he can get to the free throw line, but I'm talking with the unnatural acrobatics he's trying to pull to get to the free throw line that other players in that spot could not get away with. He has watched the basketball games. He's officiated differently than everybody else. And then he tries after the game. And again, I love Shai. But after the game, woe is me. I thought they should have called a foul there. Okay, well, Shai, if we want to play that game, you want to look back at the other times that you probably shouldn't have gone to the free throw line, but you did. I think we can let you get away with that one. So I find this team to have no self-awareness whatsoever. And I think, listen, I'll be frank, I think they're going to beat Phoenix, obviously. I think they're going to beat the Lakers, and then I think their season comes to a screeching halt against a San Antonio Spurs team that, for lack of a better term, on the defensive end plays basketball, not football or technical foul-free defense. Flagrant foul-free defense. So I find this team to be incredibly obnoxious. And by the way, the fan base too, respectfully, nothing against OKC fans. By the way, OKC's got one of the best home courts in the league in the playoffs, bar none. But OKC fans who, I kind of called y'all out at the beginning of the season when after winning a championship, you're still booing Kevin Durant. Like, bro, let it go, man. Let it go. And then now, acting like you guys are the victim in the story. Like, why aren't you talking about us being up 3-0 on the Suns? Well, I don't know, because this is an objectively bigger story. I don't know, because we expected you to win the series. So, Frank, we didn't talk about you last year when you swept Memphis because you were supposed to. You just were. I'm not talking about the Detroit Pistons today, and they're down 2-1 to the Magic. Like, we generally don't talk about one seed versus 8 seed matchups unless we get a storyline that is incredibly compelling, this being one of them. So I really don't want to hear it from OKC fans today. I darn sure don't want to hear it from Shai, and I really don't want to hear it from Lou Dort, who himself I don't think has made any ridiculous comments. But to act like we're playing by different rules when it comes to how we're discussing them, particularly in the defensive end with Dort. How many times have I come on the show for years, rip Dylan Brooks to shreds? And we'll continue to if he continues with his, again, as I call it, non-basketball acts. Remember, there was a play this year where he's playing my Warriors when Steph's going up for a three-pointer and Dylan Brooks literally punches him in the stomach as he's going for a three. Not to contest, punches Steph in the stomach. Dylan Brooks been doing this for years, been ripping him for years. Other players for dirty acts, been ripping them. I ripped Jokic earlier for at times being kind of a dirty player. So the fact that just because you're the defending champions, you should be exempt from this? I love Draymond Green in the moon and back. When I felt like Draymond's crossed the line, I've called him out. You're not above this, OKC. And then act to play the poor me card is have some self-awareness, guys. Come on. So again, this video's almost certainly going to be on the channel after the Thunder have swept the Suns, because I think they're going to sweep Phoenix tonight. If they don't, okay, they'll beat them in Game 5. The series is done, obviously. But I stand by what I've said for a year, basically. Shea is so great. He doesn't need to foul bait. Harden kind of did. Shea doesn't. Shea's a way better player than Harden, in my estimation, watching the two. Prime Harden, prime Shea, give me prime Shea any day of the week. And by the way, this Thunder team is great defensively without the BS. I mean, are we just out of bounds for saying, okay, touch Shea, he goes to the free throw line, but they can mug us into oblivion on the other end? Doesn't seem like that tracks. I rest my case. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, you think I'm fired up for these last two? I don't know what I'm going to say. I kind of know what I'm going to say. But I don't know how it's going to come off. Discussing Alex Cora getting fired by my Boston Red Sox after a horrendous start to the season. And then we'll get to LeBron and the Lakers. We'll get to Wemby and the Spurs. We'll get to some NFL draft stuff, grades. To me, the 3 best drafts, 3 worst drafts. Excited to get into all of it. We'll first have to get into the Red Sox. Let's take a 1-minute break. We'll be right back on Carving It Up. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Appreciate everybody for stopping by on a Monday. I got to say this, and I got to give a shout out where it is due. I was right in the beginning of my Jokic rant, and I guess this will lead me into a guilty pleasure of mine. Hang on, let me double check this. Hang on. Okay, just want to make sure, just so this person is, make sure this person is watching. So I'm in the beginning of my Nikola Jokic segment. And, sometimes just a little peek behind the curtain. Where my studio is located, I'm not going to give the specifics of it, but let's say it's an area of the house where sometimes family members will come in and out. And as I was in the smack dab at the beginning, I see the door to the room open. I'm like, what is going on? So I'm like trying to lock into it. And my sister walks in and she hands me, she puts it on the table here. She hands me a bag of Skittles, which if you know anything about me, I don't even know if I've disclosed this on the show. Skittles are, I must say, somewhat of an addiction for me. I have to kind of stay away from them. They're again, for whatever reason, I can't describe it. I have to, even when I'm full, I keep going. You know what I'm saying? Like I love Skittles. And so I don't know if me having this is a good thing or a bad thing, Chloe, because now I have to sit there and watch it this whole time. I have it at the corner of my eye, but I appreciate the very kind gesture. Because she like sets it down as I'm getting into the Jokic segment. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Skittle. Oh my gosh. We all have our guilty pleasures. Which, speaking of which, not of guilty pleasures, but of doing shows. Appreciate everybody on Thursday night and Friday night for tuning in to our Grit Network Draft Show. Myself, Mike Guido, doing a breakdown of all the first 100 picks or so of the draft. We appreciate everybody for stopping by. See, Chloe's in the comments. There you go. You're welcome, buddy. Listen, I appreciate it. I can always appreciate a kind gesture. I'm gonna have to put these under the table or something so I can't see them. It's I want some Skittles, but you know what? We got to do the show first. So the reward at the end. So again, yeah, I appreciate everybody for stopping by and for checking out our draft coverage. It was a blast to do. Day 2 was fun. I started solo. Guido came in, and Guido's wife made a cameo. Shout out to her. I think she brought Mike some food in the middle of the draft. So shout out to her, shout out to Mike, and to everybody who tuned in and engaged in the comment section. Really, really fun couple of nights. And we'll do some more draft coverage later on the show as it pertains to who I thought had the best and worst drafts. We do this every year. My 3 best drafts, 3 worst drafts. And so very excited to get into all of that at the end of the show. We got to shift, though, to baseball. And, if you thought I was mad about the OKC Thunder, well, I am to a degree. But in the scheme of things, doesn't affect my team. Now, the Thunder winning the title, it doesn't affect the Warriors. As you know, many of you know, I'm a big Boston Red Sox fan, diehard. Grew up watching Big Papi David Ortiz, my favorite baseball player of all time, bar none. And Dustin Pedroia, one of my favorite players, loved his grittiness and toughness and all of it. Love Petey. Love the Red Sox, all of it. And this has been a pretty brutal season. So the Red Sox, as we sit here today, are 11-17. And prior to yesterday, ironically, they got a win yesterday, 5-3, to take a series on the road against the Baltimore Orioles. So, hey, take it. But after Saturday's game, which the Red Sox spotted 17 against Baltimore, Alex Cora, among multiple other coaches, including Red Sox legend Jason Varitek, were fired. So they moved, the front office moved on from Craig Breslow, moved on from him. I don't know why Craig Breslow has not been fired, but we'll see. And you always know, I talked about this with Kevin Stefanski when the Cleveland Browns fired him. And that was a little bit different circumstances because there was the Shador component, and Shador's fans thought Kevin Stefanski was, for some reason, trying to ruin Shador's career. It's if Shador was what you said he is, why wouldn't Stefanski play him earlier so he could save his job? Whatever. When Stefanski got fired, it was 5 teams are interested. They're oh, you might have made a mistake. If you fire somebody and then they're immediately teams are we got to get this guy in. I cannot believe the Browns fired him. You probably made a mistake. When Alex Cora gets fired, and Alex Cora is not a perfect manager. I've been a fan of his over the years, but this year I haven't loved his decision-making on the fly. But when Alex Cora is fired, and you hear the Mets, for example, who are, if they don't do it during the season, which they should, Carlos Mendoza is not going to be the Mets manager much longer. You hear people in Mets circles oh, God, we got to get Alex Cora. We got to bring this guy in. And you hear former Red Sox, you hear baseball analysts oh, whoever's got a managerial opening this offseason, that's got to be your number one target. Get Alex Cora. My bet is he probably wasn't the main problem in Boston. Because the Red Sox are funny. And the shift of this organization over the last few years, really, to tell the story of recent years, you got to go back to kind of the beginning. Right around 2002, 2003, new ownership comes in, and you bring in Theo Epstein to change life in Boston, which Theo Epstein is a legend. He ended the Red Sox curse, and he ended the Cubs curse. He's a baseball legend. And in 2003, Red Sox are trying to make the World Series. They lose the heartbreaking Game 7. Aaron Boone, who can forget it? And then that offseason, they're trying to pursue Alex Rodriguez. And it looks like they're going to get A-Rod, and then they don't, and the Yankees get him, and Red Sox remain aggressive at the trade deadline, win the World Series in 2004, do it in comeback fashion, getting the World Series by beating the Yankees down 2003. And then they continue to be aggressive in free agency over the years, which gets them a title in 2007. 2013 was kind of the weird one where it was, just get the worst manager of all time, Bobby Valentine, out of the building. That you're good enough to win the title. 2018 comes around. 2018 is the Red Sox most recent title. Now, for those that may not remember, Sox won over 100 games. I think 108 was Red Sox won 108 games in 2018. But the previous 2 years, they'd won the division. They'd been good. But just couldn't get over the top. Lost to Cleveland, who made the World Series in 16, and then lost to Houston, who we know the story about that. Won the World Series, but, we know about the 2017 Astros. So the Red Sox said, hey, we like the roster, like some of the guys we got. Let's go out and get JD Martinez. And at the trade deadline, let's go out and get Nate Eovaldi. Two of those guys were huge in us winning a title. Since then, the Boston Red Sox have been as follows. We can show you the graphic. 2019, missed playoffs. 2020, under 500, missed playoffs. 2021 made kind of a Cinderella run thanks to Kike Hernandez, Dodgers legend. Kike Hernandez lost in the ALCS to the Astros. From there, losing record, missed playoffs in 2022. 2023, losing record, missed playoffs. 2024, 500, missed the playoffs. Last year, made the wild card round, lost the Yankees because they didn't have any offense. This year, they've gotten off to an 11-17 start. And the manager and his staff have been fired. Now, when I discuss the 4 titles in Boston, the 2013 is kind of the exception. It was just fire Bobby Valentine and you win a championship. So 3 of the 4, 04, 07, and 2018. All of those came as a result of some level of aggressiveness by the front office, be it trade deadline, free agents, managerial changes, whatever. And this front office, by the way, this ownership group, let's put it that way. The Fenway Sports Group, right? Well, again, they're the Fenway Sports Group. They have a piece in European soccer, and it's named after the iconic ballpark, Fenway Park. So I feel like you should put at least majority of your resources, if not the overwhelming majority of your resources, into the Boston Red Sox. Everybody knew coming off of last season, when looking at the Red Sox roster. Okay. Got to the playoffs, lost to the Yankees. Okay. Rotation's excellent, and it's been bad this year, but we believe, okay, you got Garrett Crochet, who's had a horrible year thus far, but got Garrett Crochet, Bayo, like some of your starters, Chapman coming out of the bullpen. Pitching staff's fine. They have no power whatsoever. A big reason, by the way, they don't have power is because they traded their best power hitter, Rafael Devers, to the San Francisco Giants and got a box of cookies in return, just like you got for Mookie Betts, right? Remember the centerpiece of that Mookie Betts deal? It was like Connor Wong, who's fine, Alex Verdugo, who's not a Red Sox anymore, and Jeter Downs. Oh, man, this kid Jeter Downs is he playing? I mean, I'm not even slightly joking when I say this. Is he with the Savannah Bananas now? It felt like he didn't last a year in the big leagues. Meanwhile, Mookie Betts has won 3 championships with the Los Angeles Dodgers, the most aggressive franchise, arguably in American professional sports. You can fire Alex Cora. You can fire his staff. Fine. But do you think some of the issues in Boston, in a non-salary cap sport, when you are one of the highest profit-generating organizations of baseball, it's you, it's the Yankees, it's the Dodgers, and these are the premier organizations in all of baseball. You think that might have something to do with the fact your struggles this year with you needed a power hitter and you didn't sign one? In fact, the guy who could have in theory been your best power hitter, Alex Bregman, you were too cheap to keep him, and so he went to the Cubs. I mean, Alex Bregman wanted to stay in Boston. I remember his end-of-season press conference after the Yankees lost in the wild card. Yeah, I'd love to stay in Boston. No, we don't think you're worth the money that the Cubs think you're worth, so we're going to let you go to Chicago. And we're going to trade Rafael Devers the season before. Professional sports organizations, legendary ones, and the Red Sox are a legendary one. Yes, they had the 86-year curse. I get that, but legends during that run, or I should say early 20th century, obviously Babe Ruth, most notably. And then in between, in that gap in between, most notably Ted Williams. And then afterwards, David Ortiz, Mookie Betts, Pedro Martinez, among others, Dustin Pedroia. Professional organizations die, legendary ones, when they automatically assume, one of the reasons, automatically assume, kind of doesn't matter what we're going to do. Doesn't really matter how we approach free agency or our coaching staff or our front office. It's Fenway. Boston loves their baseball. They're going to show up. Fenway's packed every night. Fans are going to show up to the ballpark. Hey, they may chance sell the team, but They're going to keep coming back because they love the Red Sox. They love their baseball. They love that ballpark. I've said this since last year. This season continues to go down the tracks. And by the way, there's a tiny little piece of me. It's like, okay, maybe you make changes to manager. Maybe he'll get a little bit of a run and can make a run. Maybe at a wild card spot. But in the end, is that the best thing for the Red Sox? It's going to take the fan base. Because the players themselves don't know what the heck the plan is. Trevor Story with the Red Sox was commenting to the media. If we have Trevor Story's quote, I think we have Trevor Story's quote. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Okay, here it is. Trevor Story talking to the Boston media. This is what he said. Some of the best coaches in the world didn't get a fair shot. It's up in the air what the true direction of this franchise is. So when the players are left in the dark, when the coaches are made to be the scapegoats in all of this, who are we supposed to look to? Craig Breslow hasn't been, as bad as he is, he hasn't been here this entire run. He wasn't the guy that traded Mookie Betts. You can blame Bloom, but Bloom was the successor to Dave Dombrowski, who you told me was the problem. Meanwhile, he's doing a good job in his newest destination. Different players have come in. Heck, Alex Cora wasn't even the manager in 2020. That was due to his involvement with the 2017 Astros, but now Alex Cora's gone. Like, gone. Different players have come in and out of the organization. You've got no remaining players from that 2018 championship team. When are you going to take some accountability, John Henry? When? When are you going to instill your resources into this baseball team? When are you going to look at the fact that, hey, Red Sox premier organization, profit, top of, not at the very top, but top 5 in baseball each and every year. Maybe we should invest in it a little bit. Listen, the Mets are a train wreck right now. Steve Cohen spends money. He does. By and large, Steve Cohen will spend the money. Meanwhile, John Henry is a penny pincher. There's no two ways about it. We rely on our farm system. I mean, for the love of God, the Red Sox operate as if they're the Kansas City Royals or the Tampa Bay Rays. As if they're a small market franchise with no resources to get better. But you want me to blame the coaches. You want me to blame Alex Cora, who the second he's fired, other organizations like, we got to get this guy. Oh, what the heck are the Red Sox thinking? Bring him in. And I do think there's an element of sometimes you do need fresh blood. You do need new leadership. I get that. But to act as if that man is the source of your problems is not taking accountability. The problem with this franchise is and has been for the last decade, John Henry. Not Craig Breslow, flawed as he is. Not Alex Cora. John Henry. He won't spend the money. And it all started, came from the top, didn't want to give Mookie Betts an extension. That's where it all began. Early 2020, trade Mookie Betts to the Dodgers. It's never been the same. So, again, I'll say it once more. There are a number of reasons why once great organizations, or if we're going to talk about college sports programs, dissolve or disintegrate into being somewhat irrelevant. One of which being, we're an iconic franchise. People are going to show up. Seats are good. Butts are going to be in the seats all season long. People are going to show up to Fenway. That's why the Knicks were terrible for years, prior to Leon Rose showing up. This is why, look at other programs. This is why up until a scandal literally forced Jeremy Pruitt out of Tennessee football, while the Vols kept going through bad coaches because he had incompetent management that was like, you know what? Tennessee fans are passionate. They're going to show up for their football team. Red Sox fans got to make a statement. They do. I'm not saying like Fenway Park looked like it did like during COVID where it's just like empty, but okay, if you're not going to put your resources into your baseball team, why should I put more resources into this organization? Why? If you don't care, why should I care? It's a truly embarrassing franchise in every way, shape, and form. Truly embarrassing. Adam Hurley's in the comments referring to my first segment. Why is Jokic an utter failure? Listen, I don't think Jokic is a failure. I think this series has been a failure for Nikola Jokic. If the Nuggets failed to beat a Timberwolves team, especially at this point with no Ant Edwards, no Donte DiVincenzo, I mean, at this point, the Nuggets on paper have the far better team. And I get Aaron Gordon's beat up. I mean, who's more valuable, Aaron Gordon or Anthony Edwards? Like, are we going to play that game? Listen, I'm fired up on today's show. I'm usually, especially on Mondays, I'm usually in a good mood coming off the weekend. I'm not one of these I hate Monday people. No, listen, it's a new opportunity, new week, new fresh start. Man, based on the events of this week, I am irritated. Let's shift into some, I'm not thrilled that this is going on, but let's shift into some lighter news. Is the Lakers and Rockets series, which has been, so I watched game 3. I watched game 3 during our day 2 draft show. And when there would kind of be lulls and commercial breaks and long periods of time between picks, I'd have it on my phone watching on Amazon Prime, watching the Lakers and Rockets. It's like, oh, Houston's going to win this thing. I literally clicked out of my Amazon Prime app when Şengün jumped the pass and dunked it on the other end. It's like, oh, this game's over. It's a 6-point game, 40 seconds. The game's over. And then what I missed, the Lakers go down, miss the shot. Houston's got 3, but Houston has the basketball with 30 seconds left, up 6. I mean, Stan Van Gundy says on the broadcast, and the Rockets are going to close it out. And then they turn the basketball over and Smart grabs it. He's like, oh, maybe I spoke too soon. Yeah, you did, because Marcus Smart inexplicably gets fouled on a 3. To his credit, hits his 3 free throws. Marcus Smart was unbelievable in game 3 and has been really good in this series. Rockets turnover again, and LeBron freaking James hits the game-tying 3 to force overtime. And the Lakers go on to win. We could show what Bron did in game 3. He was sensational. This man is 41 years old. 29 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals. Not ridiculously efficient. 10 of 22, 4 of 9 from 3, 5 of 6 from the free throw line. But of course, hit the biggest shot of the game-tying 3 to force overtime. Lakers wound up winning. Now, last night, different story. Bron might have had the worst playoff game of his life. Like, literally of his life. 10 points, 4 rebounds, 9 assists, 8 turnovers, 2 of 9 from the field, 0 of 3 from three-point range. I think that, not to take any blame for LeBron, because LeBron was horrible in this game. Was careless with the basketball, missed a shot at the backboard. He was horrible in this game. I think it can be attributed quite simply to 2 things. A, we're up 3-0. I honestly, after seeing KD was out for game 4, I was like, okay, the way they lost game 3, and now KD's out again, I think Houston's just kind of just mailing it in. Hey, gone fishing, 1, 2, 3, Cancun. They weren't. Houston came out more aggressive than the Lakers, understandably so. Their season was literally over with the loss. Lakers, okay, fine. We go home to close out in game 5. And also, and this could play factor if Houston's to steal game 5, which I don't think they will. First time that there was 1 day between games. Game 1 was on a Saturday, game 2 on Tuesday. Game 3 on Friday, game 4 on Sunday. First time that there was a 1 day gap in between games. And LeBron, 41 years old, year 23, looked pretty tired out there. Good news for the Lakers, game 5 isn't until Wednesday. And so this is a prime opportunity. Okay, fly back to LA, get some treatment, get some rest. There's a very good chance Austin Reeves is back. How good will he look? We'll see. But we know about role players. What have I said? What have I said? What's everybody said about the playoffs? Role players, bench guys, way better at home than they are on the road. More comfortable, sleeping in their own beds. That's how it works. Rockets role guys won't be as good in game 5. Lakers guys will. So I think the Lakers will win game 5, close the series out. I'm seeing folks act like, well, if the Rockets win game 5, could they? Folks, someday someone will come back from 3-0. We almost had it a few years ago with Boston over Miami. That one you could have seen maybe happening. It's like, okay, the Heat were an 8 seed. The Celtics had just been to the finals. Tatum and Brown, like they could, and they almost did. Got blown out in game 7, but they pushed it there. You mean to tell me that the guy who leads the team, the first 3-0 collapse in history, is going to be LeBron James? I don't care that he's 41. He's not doing that. By the way, against a spiritually broken Houston team. All right, let's keep it like that. That's what it is. An immature Houston team who can't close a game out. And they've struggled all season closing games out with or without KD. Up 6 with the ball with 30 seconds left and you lose. That team ain't going to be the first team in NBA history that comes back from 3-0. It's not going to happen. And so I expect Bron to do something similar like what he did in game 2, where the stats are pretty good. They don't blow your socks off. They're pretty good. Something like 25, 8-7, 25, 8-7, somewhat efficient shooting, but just controls the tone and the tenor of the basketball game. If Austin Reeves does have it going, defer to Austin Reeves. Let him cook. And so whether KD's back or not, I don't think makes a difference. I think Game 5 will be close. I think the Lakers pull it out, and then they wait for OKC, but I think OKC is going to close out Phoenix tonight, and they'll get a Spurs. I keep saying Spurs. We get a Thunder and Lakers round 2 matchup. I think it'll be a pretty quick series in favor of the Thunder, but that's what we'll get. So this is... I wouldn't make too much out of Game 4's LeBron's Game 4 performance. He was horrendous in every way, shape, and form. Up 3-0 on the road. Houston's desperate. One day between games, he'll be fine. No, I think once you get to an Oklahoma City, a much younger team, and we get to, I don't know how that series is going to be scheduled, but we get to, if it even goes this far, to a Game 5 or a Game 6, then there's definitely one day between games. Lakers are cooked at that point. Because LeBron won't have enough gas in the tank. And who knows what Luke will look like, assuming he comes back. I also did want to discuss something that I talked about last Wednesday after the San Antonio Spurs blew a 14-point lead in Game 2 and lost Wemby. Okay, Portland got a good young core, Denny Advia, Shaden Sharp, and Scoot Henderson. They've got vets, Drew Holiday, Robert Williams. Like, they've got a pretty bright future. And I still maintain that. I think the Blazers got a lot to be optimistic about moving forward. Stole Game 2 in San Antonio. It's, how long's Wemby going to be out? This team's inexperienced. And I said on this show, this is the crossroads moment. This is the moment where we see what are the San Antonio Spurs all about. Game 3 in Portland, Friday night. Down double digits. Stephon Castle plays out of his mind, and they win Game 3. Up 2-1 against a Blazers team. Need to win Game 4. Wemby comes back. They're down, 16 at the half? It's like, oh my God, it's going to be a 2-2 series, and I still think the Spurs will win, but it could get interesting. From down 16 to winning by 21 because of these two gentlemen, Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox. I put these two guys both on a graphic because they deserve it. Wemby had 27 and 12 with 7 blocks and 4 steals, just as a nice bonus. De'Aaron Fox, 28, 6 and 7. So, seeing what I saw this weekend with what Wemby did in Game 4, quickly off concussion, we'll play Wemby's bite on the concussion bit of it because he was not pleased with how that process played itself out. Winning that Game 3 in Portland, again, you're inexperienced. You can say, well, it's the Blazers. Portland's not a team to mess around with. Portland got hot at the end of the regular season. This is a team that appears to have a very unified locker room. Again, they lost Chauncey Billups after the first game of the year to the poker scheme. Again, a lot more to come from that potentially in future months and years. Lose their head coach first game of the season, who gets arrested. Tiago Splitter comes in. The young guys mature and get better. And over the course of the season, they win a big game 81 against the Clippers to get the 8 seed. And then they come back and beat Phoenix on the road. This team's not scared. This team has a bright future. This team has a Denny Advia, who I think is an all-NBA caliber guy. And you do this as an inexperienced basketball team without Wemby in Game 3, and then with Wemby, come back from 16 down in a game the Blazers knew they had to have at home. They're showing you right now, yeah, we can win the championship. We're ready. We can do this. De'Aaron Fox has only played 1 playoff series in his career. But if you remember, that was 2023, round 1 against my Warriors back when he was in Sacramento. Put a real scare in the dubs. De'Aaron Fox led the Sacramento Kings. Look at them now. Pushing the Dynasty Warriors to a Game 7. And it took a Steph Curry 50-piece to knock him out. Like, this guy's not scared of the moment. This guy was the clutch player of the year, first ever clutch player of the year, back in 2023. And then you pair him with the most unique basketball talent we've ever seen in the history of the world, who comes back off concussion, or at least concussion protocol, and looks great. Is as dominant as ever in the defensive end, and offensively goes berserk in the second half. And he got Stephon Castle and Vassell. Like, some of these guys didn't even play that great in Game 4. But what was required, what was needed, they stepped up to the moment and met it. And so I maintain, I said it back in February, I staked my claim to it right then and there. The Spurs are going to win the championship this year. That's going to be the team. As long as they're healthy, they're going to win the title. They've got a guy who by playoffs in might be recognized the best player in the world. And if they win the title, I think should be recognized as such in Victor Wembanyama. They've got one of the best number 2 co-stars in De'Aaron Fox, who I've always loved and respected. And they've got an unbelievable young core of guys that they can build towards having multiple championship contending seasons for years to come. And Mitch Johnson's a good coach. Let's give him credit where it's due as well. The guy to fill Greg Popovich's shoes and has done an admirable job thus far. As for Wemby, quickly, because he talked about his, let's call it displeasure with how the concussion protocol played itself out. Wemby feels like he could have played Friday night. So the first sign that, Wemby's probably going to play this weekend is when he flew to Portland. Because there was some speculation, okay, it's a concussion. Should he fly to Portland for games 3 and 4? He flies to Portland, and it's not announced until, 90 minutes before the game that he's not going to play game 3. Then game 4 was kind of a no-brainer at that point. This is what Wemby said about the concussion protocol. Give the kid credit. He's not afraid to say what's on his mind. This is Wemby after game 4.
I won't get into the details. I don't want it to become a distraction. Ask me again after the end of the season. But all the doctors, especially on the Spurs, but the doctors all around, they were great. Took great care of me. But the way the situation was handled was very disappointing. Not on the Spurs again. But as I said, I won't get into the details. But I'm not saying that not playing was a good or bad decision. It was a decision. I'm not saying it was good or bad. But the way the situation was handled, very disappointing.
I respect the kid's honesty, and he's like, I'm not saying that they shouldn't have done it the way they did, and I'm not blaming the Spurs, but I hate the medical process. But again, it's not the Spurs' fault. I don't know if it was a bad decision, but it was a decision. I guess he's like, I think in his head, he's like, okay, I really don't want to get fined, but I'm also want to make it clear that I did not appreciate how this process was handled, the concussion protocol process. And again, we don't talk that much about it in the NBA. It's certainly relative to the NFL, because the NFL, unfortunately, it's a sport where concussions happen quite often. And there was the major discussion when the Tua Tagovailoa string of concussions came through about changes to protocol and what have you. Whereas in basketball, we don't talk about it that much because it's a sport where it's kind of hard to get one. Like even Wemby's was kind of a freak injury. Like he jumps up, falls awkwardly, and falls face first into the court. Like that doesn't usually happen. And again, we don't even know if Wemby himself was concussed. We just know he went into concussion protocol and missed all of game 2 and game 3, or the rest of game 2 and all of game 3. And so I don't know. Like I'm sure the NBA will launch an investigation of this, although he's ripping the league. So is the league going to self-investigate? I don't know. But my main takeaway from this weekend is I don't think any team in the NBA impressed me more over the weekend than the San Antonio Spurs did. Minnesota came close, but San Antonio doing this without Wemby in game 3. After, by the way, again, you blow a 14-point lead at home. Portland's got momentum. You're down double digits in game 3, and Stephon Castle is the hero. And then in game 4, you're down 16 at the half. In a game the Blazers know they need. And the 2 best players on the team, Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox, take over and win you the game. They're gonna win the championship. I'm just telling you right now. They're gonna win the title. They're going to, and with unfortunate injuries to Minnesota, they're going to breeze past the T-Wolves. And if they play Denver's going to be spent after a 7-game war, having to come back on a beat-up T-Wolves team. And then the conference finals, they beat OKC 4 out of 5 times. And the Thunder, for as great as they are, they did face 2 Game 7s a year ago against Denver and against the Indiana Pacers. So, excellent team, but certainly not unbeatable. So much so the Spurs beat them 4 out of 5 times this year. So, I think they're going to win the title. And then whoever they play in the finals. I maintain it'll be the Knicks. Big time win by the Knicks. Got it done. And hopefully the government doesn't investigate me for saying that. Sorry, again, apologies to Ben Stiller. I'm sorry you had to go through that nonsense, my man. Just trying to tweet about basketball. Goodness. Before we go to break, though, and get to some NFL draft stuff on the other side of it, I did want to sort of recap what we didn't talk about. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday's playoff action. So Celtics beat the Sixers in game 3 in a close one. You know, they were able to pull it out. Also already talked to Lakers, Rockets, and Spurs, Blazers. Saturday, Magic beat the Pistons. Detroit's in trouble, man. They are in trouble. I initially thought, okay, they'll still win this series, but round 2 could be a bit of a problem. My biggest concern with the Pistons is outside of Cade, I don't trust them to have a true second shot creator. And even Cade's not been that efficient. And this Magic defense, which has been heralded the last few years, has stepped up. Their offense has been much better. Sets up for a very interesting game 4 tonight. I'm going to stick with Detroit. But if Orlando wins game 4, I won't be flabbergasted. We've seen 8 seeds beat 1 seeds before. And with respect to the Pistons, they're not like an unbeatable 1 seed. So Thunder beat the Suns, talked about that. Knicks beat the Hawks in a big-time bounce-back win. Karl-Anthony Towns has been phenomenal. Jalen Brunson continues to struggle with the field, but Cat had a triple-double, 20, 10, and 10 on 6 of 10 for the field, 1 of 2 from three-point range. Need to get him some more shots over the course of the series. Already talked Timberwolves Nuggets, and as for Sunday, Raptors Cavs was one of the uglier basketball games you'll ever watch. Neither team broke 40 points by halftime. It was ugly. Donovan Mitchell wasn't very good. Harden was bad. Scotty Barnes hit some big free throws late. So did Brandon Ingram. This is kind of a grinded out game. You got a 2-2 series there. I picked Cavs in 6. I'm sticking to it. But the Raptors are a scrappy team to their credit. Talked Spurs and Blazers, and I talked Lakers, Rockets. Celtics beat the Sixers in dominant fashion last night with Joel Embiid coming back, and Peyton Pritchard was fantastic in the game. Then as for tonight, and then we'll go to break, we got Pistons Magic. Again, the Pistons are 3.5-point road favorites. Vegas is thinking, okay, there's no way. There's no way. For all the offensive flaws that Detroit has, they're going to go down 3-1 to an 8 seed. I'm going to go with the Pistons tonight. I think they respond, even it up, take back home court advantage. Thunder Suns, I think the Thunder run away with it. Sweet Phoenix and Timberwolves Nuggets. Denver they can't lose this game. They can't. They literally can't, because their season would be over, but this would be, for as much as I ripped them for game 4, this would be an all-time disaster. Game 5, at home, down 3-1. The Timberwolves don't have their backcourt, one of which, one of those guys includes their best player. It can't happen. I don't think it will. Game 6 might be a different story, and that'll be on, I think, Thursday. I do think Denver wins game 5. Game 5 at home. So there you go. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, some NFL draft discussion, my 3 winners and 3 losers from the draft, as well as, prior to that, some discussion regarding Diego Pavia. We'll get to that in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Appreciate everybody for stopping by on a Monday. So, it was a great NFL draft weekend. Had a lot of fun again doing the day 1 and day 2 shows with Mike Guido, and it was a blast. Again, the draft being in Pittsburgh, I knew, again, I'm not from Pittsburgh, but I'm a diehard Steelers fan. I knew the city was going to show up and show out. No surprise there. Every time they played Renegade before a Steelers pick and the terrible towels, it was great. And so shout out to Pittsburgh, one of the better hosts of the draft that we have seen in some time. And I'm not just saying that as a Steelers fan. I'm saying that as an NFL fan. That was really, really fun. And so City did a great job, and hopefully they get a draft at some point, another draft at some point in the future. So before I get to the 3 biggest winners and 3 biggest losers of the draft, in my opinion, I do quickly want to touch on Diego Pavia, because you're like, Bryson, why are you talking about a guy who's not even an undrafted free agent? Which is true. Not even an undrafted free agent. The Ravens yesterday invited him to rookie minicamp. He accepted, and from there, he's going to try and perform well and get himself an invite to training camp, which he might very well do, by the way. But Diego Pavia is a very, and I've discussed this kid he's not a kid, he's like 3 years older than me. I've discussed him for 5 months on this show, and about his overall approach to handling his business. This is a very cautionary tale about thinking you've made it and conducting yourself in a way that assumes everybody feels the same way you do about your status. In the sense, I know that's a mouthful, but I'll put it this way. Diego Pavia finished second for the Heisman Trophy, the premier award in college sports. From that point on, he went from oh my gosh, this guy went from military school to New Mexico State to Vanderbilt. Yeah, Vanderbilt's a bigger school than those two, but it's kind of the drabs of the SEC. And he took them they beat number 1 Bama in 2024 and got them to the brink of potentially being a playoff team, 10 wins in 2025. And he did this as a 5'9" quarterback. Like, man, good for him. Pulling for this kid. I was not one who cared much for the arrogance that I didn't think he could back up. He did back up his talk against my Vols, to his credit. He'll always have that win. But beyond that, he trashed Fernando Mendoza. He trashed Indiana after the Heisman Trophy ceremony, all of it. We don't even have to get into how he's handled all of that. By the way, ripped Iowa, saying they couldn't score, and then Iowa beats them in a bowl game. I digress. Just in the draft process alone, there's baggage already there that we're looking at with Diego Pavia. Okay, his measurables aren't great to begin with. He's 5'9". That's already, he started behind the 8 ball already. And then how he handled himself like a clown at Heisman ceremony and Heisman weekend was embarrassing. Truly embarrassing. This is just what the kid said during the draft process. This first clip, he was asked about his maturity. This was at the combine. Hey, there's concerns about your maturity and whatever. You'd think, hey, this is my opportunity to say, hey, you know what? I made some mistakes. No one's perfect. I'm certainly not perfect, but I'm working on getting better, and I look forward to being a part of an NFL franchise and helping us compete for Super Bowls. Like something like that, some cliche answer. Instead, he said,
yeah, Coach Lee always preached that, you're not, your frontal lobe isn't fully developed until you're 25. And I just turned 24, so I got like 360 more days to go.
So in a question about trying to dispel the immaturity rumors, he shows himself like, no, I'm actually kind of proud to be immature. Okay. And then when asked about mentors, he says his is Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, he's giving me the what to look out for, what it's like, how to stay in the process. And, he's giving me some good advice for sure. And he always reaches out too, checks up on me, make sure I'm good. And he's just a friend to me, and so he's giving me some mentorship. He's been around me.
Okay. So the guy who, by the way, at least Johnny Manziel won a Heisman Trophy. The guy who, and to Manziel's credit, I've said this before, looks like he's done some introspection, some work. Listen, again, God knows none of us are perfect. Johnny Manziel was in a position where there were maturity questions, all of it out of the league in 2 years. By all accounts, it would appear he's worked on himself, and credit to him. Honest to God, nothing but credit. That doesn't necessarily mean you need to be the guy that mentors somebody with maturity issues. And one of the final nails in the coffin, this was in an interview with John Gruden about a month ago about whether he has an agent or not.
Now, are you representing yourself, or do you have an agent?
No, I'm representing myself.
Wow.
Yeah. So I didn't think it was fair that someone was going to represent me and take 5 to 10%.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't nobody taking my money. I'll tell you that.
So doesn't want an agent. Because, listen, we've seen situations where it's very rarely, but players represent themselves. In the case of Lamar Jackson, his mom represents. Like, we've seen that before. Yeah, I'm representing myself. Ain't nobody taking my money. Not only does he not get drafted, which, by the way, is the first Heisman finalist not to get drafted since 2014. So there's a bit of unfortunate history. But now we're not even sure if he's going to make training camp for the Baltimore Ravens or whoever else. So I'm not saying any of this as like a way to kick a man while he's down, so to speak. I'm not into doing that. I'm really not. But I did call out the warning signs 4 months on this show, and everybody got to see it during Heisman weekend. He tripled down on that tone and that approach, and it got him to being not even remotely close to being drafted. Wasn't even signed as an undrafted free agent. It's like, hey, you want to try out for us? Second for the Heisman. The lack of self-awareness to understand, okay, I'm 24 going on 25, so like I'm closer to my finished product than somebody at my position who's like 21, 22. So that teams look at as, okay, a little bit of a red flag. They really look at your measurables. You're listed at 5'10". We saw the Heisman Trophy ceremony, probably closer to 5'9". That's a concern. That's a red flag. And then there's no other way to say this other than you're just a straight up jerk to your contemporaries, to media, even media that voted for you. You bragged about being immature when it sounded like the reporter was kind of giving him a softball question, like, hey, anything you want to say to the haters that think you're immature? No, listen, coach says frontal lobe's not developed until I'm 25, so I still got time. He doesn't get it. Either he doesn't get it, or he's got horrible people in his ear. Not that they're bad people, they're just bad advice. So yeah, this is like the least shocking result I've seen. By the way, in a very weak quarterback draft, second place for the Heisman, isn't even signed as an undrafted free agent. I can't say I'm shocked. I'm not. Someone shows you they are, believe, like, this is who he is. At least right now. Doesn't mean he can't get better. We can all improve, but this is where he's at now. So maybe this humbles him. Maybe it doesn't. We'll see. Now, as for the teams and the players that did get drafted, I do want to shift to that. Because every year I do this where I say there are 3 teams that, to me, and again, it's hard to tell. We don't truly know until they take the field. It's hard to decipher. But based on team needs, based on value, based on particularly at the top where I view some of these players, we're going to go over the 3 teams that, to me, won the draft and the 3 teams that, to me, lost the draft. I'm a big believer in the idea of people like, good news, bad news. Tell me the good news first. I'm someone who says, give me the bad news first, that the good news softens it. Maybe that's how my brain works. That's how we're going to do this segment. The 3 teams that, to me, absolutely lost the draft. One of them, they've been called out for such. The heck you doing, Jacksonville Jaguars? Put up their draft. So they didn't have a first-round pick to begin with because theirs went to Cleveland. Their first pick is Nate Borkacher, the tight end from Texas A&M. By any draft scouting list, not the best tight end on the board. Then they go defensive tackle Albert Regis, also from Texas A&M. Emmanuel Prignon, the good guard from Oregon. That was a solid pick. Then they go Jalen Husky, corner from Maryland. Edge Wesley Williams from Duke. Tanner Koziel from Houston, also a tight end. They draft 2 receivers, Josh Cameron from Baylor, C.J. Williams from Stanford, Zach Durfee, the edge from Washington, and then Parker Hughes, linebacker from Middle Tennessee. Look at that draft. Look at what the Jags needed. Jacksonville needed help on the edges, and they didn't go edge until the 4th round. Jacksonville, you'd figure after a year in which Trevor Lawrence finished him a top 5 for MVP, and he just lost Travis Etienne to free agency of the Saints, you think you might want to get him a running game or another receiver. And listen, I like Parker Washington and Brian Thomas Jr., who had a rough season, I think can bounce back. I like him as much as the next guy, but especially just giving you a first-round pick, maybe take a weapon early on. Just a suggestion. Maybe take an edge rusher, which you tried to get with Walker, the kid out of Georgia, back in 2022. You got Josh Hines-Allen. He's fine. He's a good pass rusher. He's more of a 2 than a 1. I didn't get Jacksonville's draft at all. And the level of the smugness from the front office at their press conference after the draft, it was like, I feel like there was a lot of projecting going on, and like, we could have done better than we did. My second loser from the draft. The front office has made a lot of questionable moves in the last few years. That would be the Minnesota Vikings. So they want to go defensive tackle with their first pick. Fine. Caleb Banks at 18? Ever heard of Caden McDonald and Peter Woods? And Caleb Banks is a good player. He's a second-round prospect, though. Then they go Jake Golday, linebacker from Cincinnati. Defensive tackle Dominique Orange, who I think that was actually a solid pick from Iowa State. Caleb Tiernan, offensive tackle from Northwestern. Jacoby Thomas, the safety from Miami. That was a decent pick. Max Bredesen, the tight end from Michigan. Charles Demings from Stephen F. Austin, the corner. Damon Claiborne, the running back from Wake Forest. And Gavin Gerhardt, the center from Cincinnati. You kind of needed help up front. For all the struggles that J.J. McCarthy had, kind of running for his life. He was, to a certain degree. So now you bring in Kyler Murray, presumably to be your starter. We don't imagine McCarthy's going to be up Kyler in camp. Maybe get him a weapon, maybe add to the offensive line, and you really didn't do that at all until later rounds. I didn't understand Minnesota's draft at all. I don't think anybody, like if you look at any rankings list of the worst drafts, basically in every situation, they're like, yeah, Niners had the worst draft. San Francisco 49ers put their draft up. So they traded out of the first round. Fine, I'm not against that strategy. But they take Deshaun Stribling, the wide receiver from Ole Miss. Like that feels like a reach with the first pick of the second round. Then they go Romello Height, the edge from Texas Tech. They really don't need an edge rusher. And again, that's third round pick number 70. Kalon Black, the running back from Indiana. Grayson Halton, defensive tackle from Oklahoma. Carver Willis, I like the first name. Offensive tackle from Washington. Ephesians Prezuk, the cornerback from Washington. Jaden Duggar, the linebacker from Louisiana. And Enrique Cruz Jr., the tackle from Kansas. San Francisco was in a spot. They needed defensive backs. There was a guy by the name of Jermon McCoy who inexplicably fell to the first pick of the fourth round of the Raiders. Good steal on your part, Vegas. It's right there for the taking. If you wanted to trade down because you didn't think Jermon McCoy would be it, fine. He was there in the second round and in the third round. Didn't take him. Niners were one of the worst secondaries in football last year. Didn't address the secondary until, the fourth round. Like, what are we doing? End of the fourth round, mind you. So those are the three teams. Jacksonville, Minnesota, San Francisco did not get their drafts at all. The three teams that I think won the draft. Let's start with the New York Football Giants. Loved their draft. Especially their first four picks. I think they crushed it. Arvell Reese at number 5 out of Ohio State, linebacker from Ohio State. By some accounts, but some people believe he's the best player in the draft. Versatile linebacker / edge rusher. Again, from a fit perspective, he's going to be a hybrid. I'm going to leave that to John Harbaugh and staff to figure that out. I think they will. Arvell Reese is a great player. Francis Mauigoa, the tackle from Miami. There are injury concerns, especially with his back, that worry me a little bit. Overall, I think he's the best tackle in this draft. It's a bit of a risk at number 10, but I think he can pan out. Colton Hood, my man at the University of Tennessee, corner. Listen, do I think Jermon McCoy is a better corner than Colton Hood? Yes. Is Colton Hood the safer pick? Yes. Great pick by the Giants. He will be a number 1 corner for years to come. And a lot of New York Giants fans were like, are we going to get another receiver opposite Malik Neighbors? They said, yeah, we're going to get Malachi Fields, the big jump ball guy from Notre Dame. Love the pick. Then they go, again, they didn't have another pick until the 6th round. They go defensive tackle Bobby Jamison Travis from Auburn, the offensive tackle J.C. Davis from Illinois, and then the linebacker Jack Kelly from BYU. We'll see how those three pan out. Their first 4 picks, hit my mic there. Loved them. Arvell Reese might be the best player in the draft. Again, initially I'm like, I don't hate the pick because it's a great player. I just don't know where he fits. I'm going to leave that to the Giants staff to figure out because they certainly cover themselves in glory from there. Francis Mauigoa at 10. Again, I thought they were going to take an offensive lineman in that spot. They go with Mauigoa. As long as he's healthy, that kid's going to be excellent for years to come. And now you got Jackson Dart, protection on both sides of the offensive line for years to come. Colton Hood to add to your defense. Love it. Playmaker, had multiple defensive touchdowns a year ago for Tennessee. Love the pick. Malachi Fields, the receiver from Notre Dame, big jump ball guy, tons of upside, especially to be the 74th pick in the draft. Really, really like the move on the part of the New York Giants. So I think they were arguably the biggest winners for me, certainly one of the 3 biggest winners of the draft. The next team is one that I think has had some pretty strong drafts for the last couple of years, to their credit. And I have at times been critical of their front office, but they appear to be trending in the right direction. And this year, I think they did great. Put up the Carolina Panthers, ladies and gentlemen. So they, as far as I'm concerned, steal Monroe Freeling, the offensive tackle out of Georgia. I think he was the second best tackle in this draft to Mauigoa. I was stunned that the Lions didn't take him at 17. They took Blake Miller. I don't hate the pick. I think Monroe Freeling is the far higher upside prospect. 6'7" left tackle like this. They get the left tackle to protect Bryce Young. Love it. Lee Hunter, defensive tackle at Texas Tech. Let's make sure we can be able to stop the run in a division that's got some great running backs. Bijan Robinson, the Saints have Travis Etienne, and the Bucks have Bucky Irving. Like, let's stop the run. Lee Hunter at 49, great pick. Loved him out of Texas Tech. Liked him, honestly, more than Caleb Banks out of Florida. Then they go, and then, again, one of my guys from Tennessee, my man, Chris Brazzell from Tennessee, big jump ball guy, awesome hands, excellent route runner. Let's get Bryce Young another big physical weapon opposite Tat McMillan. Love this pick for the Carolina Panthers. Then they go Will Lee, the third corner from Texas A&M, like that pick. And then from there in the 5th round, center Sam Heck from Kansas State. Safety Zakee Wheatley from Penn State at number 151. And their final pick, Jackson Kawach from Miami of Ohio, the linebacker. I think Carolina addressed basically all of their major needs. They could use some help at tackle. They get Monroe Freeling, who I think is going to be a 10-year plus stud. Love the pick. Then they decide to go Lee Hunter at number 49. Personally, for me, I thought he was at worst the 3rd best defensive tackle, at possibly the 2nd best defensive tackle to Caden McDonald from Ohio State. Love him. Love his tenacity. He goes with their 2nd pick their 2nd pick of the draft, and then obviously he went in the 2nd round. They go Chris Brazzell to be able to help out Bryce Young, get him another weapon. I think Chris Brazzell is going to be a maybe not, if he's not a star in the NFL, just a good, productive, you can count him every single Sunday type of wide receiver in the National Football League. So I think Carolina crushed it. This last one hurts. This last one, I hate to say it, and I just put up the Cleveland Browns draft because I think they crushed it. They got Spencer Fano, who was certainly the safest pick at number 9 at tackle from Utah. Browns have an atrocious offensive line. Let's get Shedeur Sanders or Deshaun Watson. This year it should be Shedeur. Some help. We get Spencer Fano. With the 24th pick from Jacksonville from last year's Travis Hunter trade, we get Casey Concepcion, the wide receiver from Texas A&M, who people have been really high on over the last few weeks. This is somebody who's one of those players whose draft stock has just risen in recent weeks. Then they get another wide receiver. Again, the Browns have an atrocious offensive line, atrocious receiving core. Well, we're going to address the O-line, and we're going to go out and get back-to-back wide receivers. Denzel Boston, who by some mock drafts, including my own, was a mid to late 1st round pick. They get him at 39. Denzel Boston from Washington. Love the pick. Big jump ball guy. You know I love these big wide receivers who can run routes. Denzel Boston is one of those guys. Then, later in the 2nd round, one of the best safeties in this draft, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, somehow inexplicably available at pick number 58. They get him to add to their secondary. And then later, Austin Barber, really like him out of Florida, offensive tackle. They get him. And then from there on, Parker Brailsford, the center from Alabama. Justin Jefferson, no, not that Justin Jefferson, the one who's a linebacker, also from Alabama. Tight end Joe Royer from Cincinnati. Quarterback Taylon Green from Arkansas. I think they'll convert Taylon Green into kind of a gadget type of quarterback. And then finally, 7th round pick, they use it on tight end Carson Ryan from BYU. So I thought, particularly those first 4 to 5 picks, I thought the Browns absolutely crushed it. And you know that hurts my soul to say. It really does. But they needed help at offensive line, and they addressed it. They needed weapons. They got 2 of them. They got a top 3 safety in the draft. Like, it's probably Caleb Banks, the Inman, who ended up going to Chicago, and then Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. And they get him at 58. That's incredible draft value on the part of the Cleveland Browns. So Cleveland, we've had some rough some rough back and forth over the years. Your delusion with your sports team still, it bothers me. But I'm nothing if I'm not fair. Y'all kind of crushed it. And before we get out of here, I do want to look. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't look at my team's draft, which certainly I didn't think was a bad draft. I also didn't think it was one of the 3 best drafts, but I liked it. And I want to preface it by saying, I talked about coming in, and I guess Steelers fans discussed, hey, this is the most draft capital we've had since 2000. Most draft picks we've had since 2000. New regime, McCarthy, like, we got to hit on these picks. And I really liked our draft. I was one of the few Steelers fans that liked us taking Max Iheanacho. The fact that we missed out Mekhi Lemon, nothing gets Mekhi Lemon. We need a left tackle, especially with Ian Achor, who's a high upside tackle, with a Mike McCarthy, who's good at developing offensive lines, I love the pick at 21. From there, we go Jeremy Bernard, the wide receiver from Alabama. I really like Jeremy Bernard. I think he can be a legit number 3 and potentially can evolve into a number 2 receiver. We go from a wide receiving core with DK Metcalf and Adam Thielen, Marquez Valdes-Scantling to, wait a second, DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman Jr., Jeremy Bernard. Like, you've got some real weapons there. At 76, little bit of controversy. They go with the quarterback, Drew Aller from Penn State. So let me just take the draft off the board and let me say this. So, actually, let me go through the other picks and then I'll get to Drew Aller. So then they go Dalen Everett. Again, I would have really liked Jermel McCoy in that spot. Dalen Everett, the corner from Georgia, still a really good player. Go with another receiver, Kalen Wedgen from Iowa. Get a tight end, Riley Nowakowski from Illinois, defensive tackle Gabriel Rubio from Notre Dame, safety Robert Spears-Jennings from Oklahoma, and then it was a really cool moment at pick number 230, the the gadget guy, the wide receiver / running back, Eli Heidenreich from Navy. He grew up in Pittsburgh, obviously went to the Naval Academy, was at the draft, showed up, went on stage, hugged Goodell, the 7th round, Goodell's still out there, it's dope. Waving the terrible towel. The fans are going crazy. It was a really, really cool moment. So shout out to him, and me and every other Steelers fans obviously pulling for him. To the Drew Aller pick. So Drew Aller was the 4th quarterback off the board. Obviously, Mendoza went to the Raiders. No surprise there. We were all shocked by Ty Simpson to the Rams. Talked about that on Friday. And then you had Carson Beck early in the 3rd round, first pick of the 3rd round, going to the Cardinals. I think we all kind of felt like Carson Beck would be the 3rd quarterback off the board. It was just when. Drew Aller, the 4th off the board, going to Pittsburgh. Here's how I see it. So Drew Aller, when I watched him at Penn State, there's something there as far as raw talent. Mostly as it pertains to size and arm strength. That matters in this league. And that really matters, by the way. I've talked about for years. If you're playing in a cold weather city, Pittsburgh being one of them, you kind of need to be a bigger quarterback with a bigger arm. That's why Big Ben worked there. Mahomes has a big arm, works in Kansas City. Josh Allen, huge arm, works in Buffalo. Like, that's just Tom Brady. People never gave him enough credit for his arm strength. He wasn't ridiculous with it. It wasn't like Aaron Rodgers. By the way, Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay. Brett Favre, Green Bay. Tom Brady could sling it. Tom Brady had some arm strength throwing that New England cold. It matters. Drew Aller has upside. The thing that, and I think the injury, I think he's able to compete at the combine. The ankle injury doesn't concern me. I think he's fine by now. What scared me a little bit, and maybe you could chalk this to bad coaching / Penn State did not really have weapons. They obviously had, Tyler Warren, that was pretty much it. The idea is, we like the upside. If we give him good coaching, good development, again, Mike McCarthy is good at developing offensive line and quarterbacks, both of which the Steelers needed desperately. If you can develop him, give him weapons, which the Steelers now all of a sudden have a pretty good receiving core, maybe he can be something. A lot of Steelers fans have said, man, when's Will Howard going to get a chance? Here's what I'll say about that. Number 1, I think he will get a chance. Now, the Aaron Rodgers domino is what really throws a big wrench into this. Is if Aaron signs, it's like, well, Aaron's going to be the starter. Like, he just is. He's going to be the starter next season, which doesn't get the Steelers better at all. The goal for Pittsburgh is to know, or at least have a good sense of, by the end of 2026, we know who we're rolling with moving forward. Will Howard or Drew Aller. We're rolling with one of those guys. Will Howard will get his opportunity in camp. What I will also say is this. While I want to see Will Howard get an opportunity and see what the kid has, there is a reason he was a 6th round pick. Like, he's big, strong. I get it. I never once watched him at Ohio State. Even when they won the national championship the year he was there, it was like, oh my gosh, like this kid has franchise quarterback potential. I never saw that. Never saw it. Maybe he proves me wrong. I love that we have an offensive coaching staff in the building now. Again, I've said a million times, Mike McCarthy will drive all of us in Steel Nation crazy with play calling, lack of creativity at times, clock management. I view McCarthy as a transitional coach into the next guy who hopefully is an offensive guy. Develop the quarterback, develop the O-line. By and large, McCarthy's staff and or his successor can take it from there, and hopefully the Steelers can get back to competing for Super Bowls. That's the goal. Bringing Aaron Rodgers back accomplishes none of that. None of it. I want Will Howard or Drew Aller starting in Pittsburgh week 1. Frankly, I wouldn't mind to see both, unless one just goes out there and dominates, right off the bat. So if Aaron isn't back, I kind of see the vision in Pittsburgh. The first 2 picks I'm in love with. Ian Ochoa at 21 and Jeremy Bernard in the second round. Love those picks. But the development of those quarterbacks, whether you think it's going to be Drew Aller as your franchise guy or Will Howard as your franchise guy, will be stunted. Or at least you won't know in 2026, and you need to know at some point sooner rather than later, if Aaron Rodgers is back in the building. Like, it doesn't help those guys get better at all. No, not whatsoever. You know the best way to get better? Play. They can't play if Aaron's there because Aaron's better than them right now. Even as advanced age and stage, Aaron is a much more ready to play football now than Drew Aller and Will Howard are. Other than that, love the rest of the Steelers draft. So we'll see how it plays out. We do have some not really breaking news. It came in 20 minutes ago. Cooper Flagg won Rookie of the Year, which he would have gotten my vote. Respect to Con Knipple. I would have voted for Cooper Flagg. So there you go. Cooper Flagg is Rookie of the Year. So yeah, again, Pittsburgh was not one of my 3 winners of the draft. Certainly not one of my 3 losers. By and large, I like what they did. I really liked what the Steelers did. First draft McCarthy. Let's see how he develops the offensive line and the 2 quarterbacks. And then as for the losers, Jacksonville, Minnesota, Niners, I don't know what they're doing. The winners, the Giants, Panthers, and as much as I hate to say it, the Browns crushed the draft. Absolutely crushed it. Also liked what Detroit did too, to a certain degree. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, as well as on Twitch, X, and on Facebook. Hope everybody has a great week. We'll see you guys on Wednesday. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. Don't bring Aaron back, guys. I'm telling you. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.